Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on the Pulse podcast from Wavetronics. This week, we continue our conversation with Road Guy Rob Sanders. You have a particular style and approach to your videos. Can you explain what that is, aside from simplifying things to that sixth grade level?
A good radio promo beats you on the head. Less so these days. As a younger, if you're a younger person, you don't know what radio was back 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. So it used to be, to get your ratings, to be able to sell advertising and prove you have an audience, they would actually mail out diaries, and you'd have to write the name of the radio station down on a piece of paper and when you listened. So radio stations would beat you over the head with the name of the station. I mean, it would come out of every song. They hit you with the station name, 102.7 KISS FM, and then the DJ talks, and they say, here's the new one from Ashanti, 102.7 KISS FM.
Yeah.
Like, they beat you. And then between songs, they'd have sung jingles that would sing the station name. You'd have the big, deep voiceover, number one in Southern California, 102.7 KISS FM, because they're trying to let these survey panelists know, oh, what was I listening to earlier in the day? And then they hear in their head, KISS FM. Like, okay, that's good, So, but it also was kind of good at keeping people's attention, because you beat them over the head constantly to keep them on track. And so I would do that in radio. I don't know that in public media we needed to do that, but I did it anyway because it made it fun and it kept listeners engaged. So that's what I do. The underlying audio track of my file, in a way, is kind of a radio promo. I'm trying to keep people tight. Like, if you come out of a soundbite of somebody I'm interviewing, there's no gap between when they stop and when I pick up.
Yeah.
I'm almost talking over them as you come out, because I don't want any downtime where somebody goes, oh, it went quiet for half a second. The video must be boring now. I'm out.
Yeah.
So it's almost like my videos are like 6 seconds long, and then there's another 6-second video and another 6-second video and another 6-second video. And I just daisy chain them all the way through. And the next thing you know, you sat through 17 minutes.
And that keeps the viewer engaged. That's something I learned from Robert Wallace. And his ideal was, don't go more than 2 paragraphs without some change in audio.
Yeah.
So that you're keeping people engaged.
And how you do the voiceover, right? He would describe, like, if you go to a religious sermon on Sunday, everybody goes to sleep because the sermon is da 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 da. Da, 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 da. That's the cadence, and it's this nice sine wave that puts you to sleep. But if you're voicing something, you can say, and that's when there was a big change in the neighborhood. We don't just voice, and that's when there was a big change in the neighborhood. You'd say, and that's when there was a big change in the neighborhood. Make big. That gets people's attention, To attach some video next to it. When you say the word neighborhood, you better be seeing on screen a neighborhood. You don't just grab generic B-roll of stock video and just run it and narrate underneath it. You go out to the neighborhood, and if you're talking about this highway project is going to demolish 15 mailboxes, you better, as I'm talking about that, you better be seeing mailboxes, video of the bulldozer that's parked that tomorrow is going to tear out the mailboxes. Actually match your video to the narration, and then make the narration fun.
And you're a one-man band.
Yep.
So
I can barely afford to hire myself. I'm not ready to hire anyone else.
So you're shooting everything. You're doing the editing, graphics.
Come up with the idea, book the idea, do the interview, chop up the interview, write the script around it. I actually write by ear, so I don't type it out. I actually put the sound bites in the video editor and then record what the script would be around it, and then change it over time. So my drafts are actually in audio. But then I print, translate that into text, email it myself, go out and shoot the stand-ups, shoot the B-roll, put it all back together, do the edit, the animation, recoloring, closed captioning, marketing, IT work when the computer inevitably crashes, because anybody who's ever edited video, it doesn't matter what software package you use, they just are very crashy. I got to do my taxes.
Yeah.
I have to do admin stuff, like, when I'm on a film trip filming, I got to take care of all my receipts and log it. So So it's hard because I want to be making videos 100% of the time, but like 30% is just admin.
Yeah.
You know, and that's frustrating.
People have no idea how long it takes to edit a video. Say you've shot everything. Still, to make a 17-minute video as engaging as yours are?
On 1 month.
1 month.
1 month. Yeah.
So is that your cadence? So about a video a month?
Video a month, yeah.
Wow.
So I'm trying to add in, as I'm getting faster at it, I'm trying to add in more original YouTube shorts as I can. I now have, for half my income are people who contribute on Patreon. And so it's the PBS model where people just altruistically give a little bit each month, and then that helps. It's actually slightly better than the YouTube ad revenue. So between the two, I can afford to live. And I want to give them something back, you know, and so I do a monthly podcast. But the monthly podcast, I can get that done in a 1 hour podcast. I get that done in a day.
Yeah.
A 17-minute videos, I figured out a long time ago, video's 10 times as hard as radio, 10 to 20 times as hard. I'm not exactly sure how it works out that way, but you can put together, if you're going to go on air and do a 3-hour radio show, you figure the prep time on that's probably minimum 3 hours. So you're probably looking at like a 2-to-1 ratio of airtime to prep time, maybe 3-to-1 ratio. Television, it's like 20-to-1. I mean, it's bonkers. You know, they would have you do a news story that would be 90 seconds long, and it would basically take you the whole day.
Yeah. We'd spend a day gathering all the interviews, setting them up like you do, and we do the interviews, and we'd edit together if we're lucky, a minute 30 story. They chopped that down by the time I left to, they wanted them 105, 110.
I can even tell the story.
You can't tell a story in a minute and 5 seconds, but that's what they wanted.
Radio was 45 seconds. So
wow.
Yeah, the stories turned real quick. So you didn't. So they have it at the beginning of a TV package or a radio. We call them a wrap, right?
Yeah.
Where the reporter talks. You write something for the anchor to say to go in the anchor lead. And those are important, and especially if you're at 105, you better get some of the most important things in there. With a radio wrap, you'd have to tell half the story in the anchor lead because you didn't have much left in the 45 seconds. Especially a couple of sound bites in there. 2 sound bites, and one of the sound bites is, "Yeah, it's a big deal around here."
Wow.
And then you don't. And that's something I learned from our shared mentor Robert Walls. You don't double up. You don't say, and that's why. Steve Johnson says it's a big deal around here.
Yeah.
It's a real big deal around here.
It's a real big deal. Yeah.
But
you hear that on radio and TV all the time.
Oh, gosh.
It drives me crazy.
The worst is because television is so emaciated now because people are streaming. There aren't the viewers that used to be. There's a lot of corporate consolidation, private equity and things. And so they hire a lot of people out of college. They're making $35,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so you don't get good quality writing. You're never going to get good quality writing out of somebody inexperienced making $35,000 a year is going to give up in another year. And so you watch these news stories in smaller towns, and they'll have an anchor lead where they say, hey, in fact, Atlanta, there was a story in Atlanta where they said, hey, the Amtrak station, they're studying to see whether we want to move it to downtown Atlanta. We'll go to our reporter, and they go to the reporter. Yeah, I'm standing here where they're talking about moving the Amtrak station to downtown Atlanta. They said the exact same thing twice. That's a waste of the minimum amount of time you have. It's lazy writing. I'm not trying to call out that anchor. I'm just saying it shows lack of experience. This reporter didn't have the mentor to realize, I could have told something else once he got into the story. And I think that's too bad. So I try to avoid that.
Yeah.
Occasionally it happens, but I try to have where I'm not repeating the same phrase or the same noun back to back, even if I have to change it to a synonym, just to kind of keep it fresh as you keep moving through it.
We could spend 3 or 4 hours on bad news writing, and like you said, the demise
I've achieved
of
my
the
goal.
industry.
I got us off topic.
But let's go back to transportation. Is there anything that has just totally surprised you while covering transportation?
It can the public response to a project really has to do with public involvement going in. One story I covered was in San Diego County, northern San Diego City. They have a neighborhood street that really should be a through street. It should be one of those that's striped, one lane each way, 40 mile an hour, the back wall of the neighborhood, or the driveway should not face that street, but they do, because there was poor planning back in the 80s, and now it's a through street.
Yeah.
And to try to get people to slow down, the engineers with San Diego City I thought it was a clever idea of doing something called like an edge lane road, where you basically stripe 2 white lanes that are just tight enough that it's like only wide enough for like 1.5 cars. And the idea is you drive down the middle of the street, but when another car approaches, you can kind of drift over and then you can drift back. But what leaves a nice big space between the parked cars and the car driving down the middle of the road so you can ride your bike. And the problem is as you approach, you're both driving down the middle of the street, so the cars are literally driving head on toward each other. And in America, we don't have these kinds of roads. And so needless to say, people didn't like it because San Diego City didn't really talk with the neighborhood at all. They just went out one day and striped it that way. And the bike lanes lasted about 3 weeks. Wow. And then they got removed, and now there's no bike lane on that street. And so it was something where they could have done something really cool. And as a result, if they had warmed the neighborhood up to this and communicated with them ahead of time and got them where they were willing to give it a try, I think they would have found after a couple of months, they would have gotten used to them and kind of liked them. But because they didn't, any future bike lanes like that they could have done throughout the city, well, they're not going to happen now, because if the Mira Mesa project was a failure, well, why would we try it in our neighborhood, And so it just shows the lack of communication can really make a difference. Carmel, Indiana, on the other hand, where the mayor, he was mayor for like 20-something years, bullied roundabouts at every intersection that was either a 4-way stop or a stoplight, and bullied those through. But he was so effective at simply communicating in a simple way why this would make the town work better. Early in the podcast, I talked about how the traffic flow concept of you have interrupted flow, which is stops, 4-way stops and stoplights. That's most of the streets we have. Yeah. And you have uninterrupted flow, which is a freeway. Well, if you have a roundabout, it's kind of uninterrupted flow because sometimes you have to stop, but the cars kind of exit the roundabout at random times, kind of like how cars enter freeways at random times, right? So you just kind of have this like steady flow of cars all the time. But imagine you go out to the freeway over there, you stick a stoplight on it. So you have, 100,000 cars a day, and then that big flow of traffic, 8 lanes wide, and then all of a sudden it turns red. How long, if you're waiting for 30 seconds for the light to change, is that line going to stack up? And you're going to start having weird problems, because when that goes, that chunk of freeway is going to feel really busy, like 8 lanes isn't enough. But yet, if you can keep the freeway flowing randomly all the time, the 8 lanes are plenty, You can do that in your town. So if you have, instead of everybody stopping at the red light, now you need a road that's 2 lanes in each direction, because that line's building up, and when it turns green, this big chunk of cars, all, they call them a platoon, all going at the same time. Well, if they go into a roundabout and they sort of spit out at random times, then they're going to arrive at the next roundabout at a random time, and then arrive at the next roundabout at a random time. You can get by with a 1-lane road. He was able to take roads that were 5 lanes, 2 in each direction internally, narrow them down to 1 in each direction.
Wow.
Put bike lanes in, and have the drivers thank him for it.
Wow.
Right? But he couldn't have done it if he hadn't communicated it.
Yeah.
The communication is everything.
And you communicated the name of that city correctly. Carmel.
Carmel.
Well,
Carmel.
I did.
Yeah, well, I right in front of the mayor. I interviewed him on the Raw interview. So tell me about how roundabouts got started in Carmel. And he said, I got to correct you. It's it's a beautiful town you got there on the California coast, but we call it Carmel.
Carmel.
So after embarrassing myself in front of the mayor, I'm better at not messing that up.
What do you see for the future of transportation, or hope for the future of transportation?
I think, well, if I could first put on a pessimism hat before I put on the hope hat, I think the promise of solving traffic congestion through autonomy is misguided. So the theory is you go to the freeway, and one of the problems you have with the freeway is as you speed up traffic, trying to get more cars through, you're like, well, if the speed limit's 55 and we make it 75, we'll push through 20% more cars. Well, that's not true, because human drivers, as we go from 55 to 75, we spread out. And so the capacity stays the same. You have kind of a limit of like 2,400 cars per lane per hour is like the max before the freeway fails. And so the theory is if we made the freeways fully automated, you could have the cars bumper to bumper, and maybe you could get 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 cars a lane. I don't know what they could get out of it. You could make the traffic speed up, and they could still stay bumper to bumper. And so, but I get thinking, you have a problem with freeways tend to fill up. We all want to go places, and so we widen the freeway. Nothing wrong with widening the freeway, but we do have to realize when you widen the freeway, more people are going to use the freeway, and it'll eventually fill up. And I think back in the 50s and 60s, like they didn't even have the concept that the freeway could fill up, because it seemed like unlimited. You just put it in there and the car disappears. And we've proven you can fill them up. And I think autonomous cars, everybody's excited. We're going to solve all our traffic problems because we get so much more traffic through it, but we'll fill it up.
Yeah.
So that I'm a little bit pessimistic about. I'm a little bit pessimistic about people not wanting to pay for parking. Their car can drive itself, so it drops them off at the restaurant and then circles the block empty while they're eating.
Wow.
So you have downtowns full of empty cars. But on the plus side, traffic safety is going to be a whole lot better. You know, we have a real problem with distracted driving, myself included. I to criticize anybody else for the distracted driving, I have to point four fingers back at myself. And having a car now that if I'm approaching stop traffic will go beep, 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 and even jam the brakes, automatic emergency braking, is going to save lives. Yeah. You know, when eventually the automobile fleet turns over, where every time I start drifting out of my lane, it goes beep, 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 and every time I'm approaching stop traffic, it beep, 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 that's going to save lives. You know, in the way that seatbelts save lives, in the way that stability control has quietly saved a bunch of lives. I'm excited to see what that's going to do to counter the fact that we're all staring at our phones. The only reason you and I are not staring at our phones right now is we're on a podcast. Yeah. The producers, they're on their phones right now. And unfortunately, half the people out on the freeway are on their phones right now.
And I won't say that I had Road Guy Rob on as I was driving in today, watching the episode from Tennessee, you know, hurricane aftermath, which was fascinating.
Yeah. That was, the Tennessee story was fascinating just because the damage affected 49 different roads. I went and looked at one. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like it's not a populated area, but you know, they're just, you live in this rural area and you lose both your bridges, and you know, the cable internet's down, the power's down. They get their water. They don't have municipal water out there. They get it from pumps because they have lots of groundwater, but the power's down, so they have no power. And so getting in, and the state is so focused on trying to get the state highways back open. They're backlogged like that. Some of these cities and counties, they're going to be working for a decade trying to get a lot of this stuff back open because they're not accustomed to it. They don't have access to some of the same emergency federal funding. If it's something I didn't know, is a great law Congress passed a long time ago on an important road like a U.S. highway or state highway, or state highways that are regionally significant, interstate highways. You have a bridge collapse or something, you can get reimbursed 100% or 90% or something. It's significant. And there's a lot of metrics to try to make sure you get it done in a hurry. But the less important local roads don't get that same kind of access to money. And so you have these poor Tennessee counties that don't have a lot of resource anyway. They have almost no business there. And they're going to have to be going to their state capitals to really try to fight to get 2 overpasses rebuilt. In this case of this one town, it may be 8 to 10 years to get the money and get it appropriated and get the other people in Tennessee to help pay for it. and then find a contractor and then get the thing built. And they're not the state of Tennessee who are building bridges all the time. They're some little county that hasn't built a bridge in decades, So there's a lot of small stories that don't get our attention, but they're really important to the people affected. Every single one of us has a local road that if something went wrong with it would really it may not disrupt our lives, but it would significantly inconvenience us. And being able to hear some of these small stories from time to time, I think are helpful, because it stokes a little empathy in ourselves and realize, if that were happening to me, I wouldn't like it either,
When you roll up on a Tennessee DOT person, are you famous? They know who you are?
No, not in Tennessee. So
where are you well known?
Within the transportation industry out west. So the best results I've had are UDOT.
Yeah.
There was a story I was interested in about stoplight arms that are like this, right? They kind of hang out and they start galloping in the wind, hopping up and down, And there was a case study that was based out of Tooele County, so I reached out to UDOT's PR people, and what I do is a lot of times I write my emails late at night and I put it in Outlook and say, okay, send this out at like 9 a.m. so it's not pinging somebody's phone. I got a response at 9:30.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I'm a big fan. I really want to be in your video. Yes, UDOT. I think I interviewed the guy that day.
Wow.
So UDOT, some of the Caltrans people know me. But the farther east you go, I'm unknown. And the older the professional is, if I go to a conference and it's a transportation professional who's in their 30s, I'm 40, so if they're in their 30s or 20s, 50-50 odds they know me, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
If they're over 40, it's about 1 in 100.
YouTube.
You just don't watch a lot of YouTube.
Why would anybody watch YouTube? Yeah.
So
what's the future of Road Guy Rob?
I was thinking the other day, I was going, it would be fun to do a video in all 48 contiguous states. I think I've done, 16 or something like that. I added it up the other day and I can't quite remember. The West I've done, Utah is well covered, California is well covered, Nevada, Arizona, Oregon, Wyoming now. So going through and kind of making a map and saying, well, I haven't done Michigan. I haven't done Connecticut. Did I do Connecticut? Yeah, I have, Merritt Parkway. But go through, I think it would be neat to show transportation across the entire contiguous US and get some of the provinces too. Toronto, they 401 freeway in Toronto, I think is in some places the widest in the world. You gotta tell that story at some point, ask the question, well, at what point does a freeway get too wide? There's a practical limit. Everything kind of follows a bell curve. And so we know if a freeway is like one lane, it's not going to work very well. And if you hit a certain magic number, it probably is kind of hitting its peak performance. And then I can't help but think that there's a point where you get to like 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 lanes. Like, does it start to come back down where you break it? Because if you think about a crowded freeway, if somebody enters the freeway and they're like, okay, well, I'm here. I'm going to now make 11 lane changes to get all the way over here. That causes a lot of wake behind them that slows the traffic down. At a certain point, all the benefit you get from having the freeway being this wide, do you lose it because of all the wake? I haven't found anybody who's done academic research on that yet to back that theory up. And so that's why I haven't done that story. But like Toronto and the 401, that would be fun to learn about,
Very cool.
Did they make it too wide?
Okay, lightning round.
Okay.
First car you ever drove?
Well, first car I ever drove legally?
No, doesn't have to be.
Oh gosh. When I was a baby, my mom would have me, turn the steering wheel in the driveway. But my parents had a fleet of 1978 American cars. So it was probably like a 78 Chevy Nova or something like that. Dodge van,
Dream car?
Oh gosh, it used to be a DeLorean until Never Meet Your Heroes. Those things look horrible. They look like a Cybertruck, or Cybertruck looks like a DeLorean. Neither of them look impressive in person. I I'm a very practical person. I think if somebody came to me with a lot of money, I'd be very boring and get like a Lexus LS hybrid.
Yeah.
Just call it a day.
Reliable, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Worst driving ticket you ever got?
I've only had one ticket.
Wow.
Yeah, 77 and a 65. You call that a ticket.
man.
It was 4th of July, 2012. It was in the middle of Wyoming. I had an out-of-state. I had my Utah plate at the time. So 77 to 65. I paid more when I got a parking ticket in L.A. by the beach. I think that was $85.
Wow.
Wyoming was it's $75. So Wyoming, you're not going to fight that. You know?
So speaking of beaches, road trip, mountains or beaches?
Oh, beaches.
Okay.
Mountains are cold.
Not in the summer.
When's the last time you ever heard search and rescue had to go find the lost hiker along the beach?
Along the beach, yeah. Favorite road to drive in America or anywhere else?
I just out of sheer sentimentality, I love Interstate 15 through the Mojave Desert because it used to always represent me escaping Utah and getting down to California. Now it represents coming home. I want to go see people I know, and the sunsets and just the fact that you can be in this snarly bumper to bumper traffic in the middle of nowhere. There's not even water.
Yeah.
And you have 6 lanes all to just dead stop. I don't know. There's something just, it's not healthy for us. I'm sure history won't look on it kindly, but yet there's like a weird art to it.
Yeah. Of
just total bumper to bumper. I mean, how many times it's come to such a bad stop. We all got out of our cars and started talking to each other in the Mojave Desert, So I don't know. I'd probably say that's my favorite. It's not a fun drive.
Yeah.
But it's probably my favorite.
Interesting. Roundabout or 4-way stop?
Oh, roundabout.
Of course.
4-way stops are evil. Now if you'd ask traffic signal or roundabout, I'd get into this whole, well, it depends. 4-ways. They're all over California, and I hate the 4-way stop.
Okay. Diverging diamond or spooey?
Oh, spooey. Look, the diverging diamond is neat. Everybody loves them. But the spooies are like, the spooies are kind of stupid in a lovable way.
Yeah.
I love getting off. I just today went a little too fast coming off 4th South here in Springville, and you can get some pretty amazing speed on a spooey when you have the green, almost like you have a flyover ramp.
Yeah. That
you can't do that. Diverging diamond's safer. It forces you to slow down to 10 miles an hour to make your turn, but I love being able to do 60 as you go off the freeway, So, yeah.
Could have got that second ticket today, maybe, huh?
Yeah, well, thankfully I didn't.
Yeah. Best invention in traffic design, you think?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, you don't have to talk about the smart sensor.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's
a good one.
If they hook it up right and they use it.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can
provide
provide the detection, but it depends on how it's configured, right, by the agency.
Honestly, this is going to get out of transportation into automotive, but I think it's all improvement they made in tires, because I do some really dumb turns because I'm still young at heart, and still single, so I don't have a significant other yet to tell me to slow down. And but you watch these old shows from the 1960s of like the cop chases Mannix and stuff like that. And the suspension and the tires were so bad. I mean, they just barely make something a Toyota Camry could just zoom around the corner and they go around there. The back end's fishtailing. So I really think we don't talk about it much, but I think tire technology is really amazing. My last car, my Honda, I bought it new. I still have it. I put 360,000 miles on it. And I got a flat tire once.
Wow.
360,000 miles. And so you go back again, 1960, nobody was going to go 360,000 miles and not have a flat. So I'd say tires.
Aside from yourself, favorite YouTuber?
Okay, so there's this weird German animated channel, Kurzgestalt in a nutshell. And they take these concepts about like how the immune system works or, the heat death of the universe or whatever. And they animate it with these like little birds that hop up and down and everything. And it's the guy with a British accent narrating it. It's this high budget production, but they do such a good job explaining complicated stuff so simply that I think back of my mind, I think I'm trying to emulate them a little bit.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Nice. Good answer. Dream guest for your YouTube channel.
Dream guest. A lot of people over the years said, well, you should have like the transportation secretary on, But here's the problem. Like whether it's Sean Duffy or Pete Buttigieg before, they're looking at everything from like a 30,000 foot level. And so I feel like I'm just going to get platitudes out of them. Well, we're committed to a safe and efficient and equitable transportation system.
Yeah.
And so in a way, I'm going to actually punt that question and say, I don't know if I have a dream guest, because some of the best interviews are people I've never heard of. And they're just such a great expert at this little piece.
Yeah.
And then you get talking to them and you learn so much because that's their world, I'm covering things an inch deep and a mile wide, but their whole career is an inch wide but a mile deep. Mm-hmm. And if that video happens to cover that topic, it's like you could just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And no matter how deep you go, they've got great answers to it. So I'd probably say I don't know who my dream guest is until I meet him or her, of whatever they're good at.
That's a great answer, because we know that officials, and this is what Robert Walls taught us, are oftentimes not great interviews. They're trained in sound bites and trained to really not say anything. Yeah,
because their job is to try to keep everybody happy. Yeah. If they actually said how they really feel about it, half or more of the people are going to be mad at them. And their job is to be an official of everybody. So they got to be, but yeah.
Soundtrack for a road trip.
Oh, I kind of have an EDM dance thing going right now, where I'm going back to all the dance tracks from like 2012. And
nice.
Isn't it interesting though? The best music in my case came out about 2002, right around when I was 17. Best music.
Yeah.
And
80s.
Yeah, which
best music.
Oddly enough, was probably about 17 years after.
Yeah, isn't that funny how that works out?
So 2002 music, that's a great soundtrack. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Night driving or day driving?
Oh, night driving. Freeways wide open. You have reflectors in California, the raised pavement reflectors, so you can see the curve in the road almost better than you can in the daytime. It's cooler. You're not dealing with the heat, Oh, yeah, night drive's great.
Gas station snack of choice.
I tend to be more, I go hit up Costco and get the $10, well, now they're probably $20 bag of jerky.
Yeah.
And then I can just kind of skip the gas station. So a gas station snack is more a cup of ice, 50-cent cup of ice. So I'm driving in the Central Valley or someplace and it's really hot. Go into the gas station. Don't buy the whole drink. I keep a case of water in my car. The water's as hot as something you'd use to make tea, because it's been sitting in the back of the car. You get the big, large cup, fill it up with ice, put the hot water in it. You just, this like straw and this nice ice water in your car. Yeah, it's like 50-cent cup of ice.
If you weren't doing traffic storytelling, what would Road Guy Rob be today?
Well, hopefully a traffic engineer. Otherwise, all that education wasn't useful. Now, if it was 40 years ago, I would have been the guy pounding on KSL radio or KFI or KNX or someplace trying to be a talk radio host. Not necessarily political, but back when it was general talk, Or when I was younger, top 40 DJ, jumping from city to city, trying to do afternoon drive. But in today's environment, I'm grateful YouTube's here, because I'm not quite sure what I would be doing without it at the moment.
We're glad you're Road Guy Rob.
Me too.
And that you got to come and visit us today.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. And I got a cup.
You got a cup that says Pulse Podcast on it. Where can people find you if they want to look you up?
Well, YouTube, Road Guy Rob. If they want to get a little more involved, contribute a few dollars, patreon.com/roadguyrob. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, is messaging me through that. And I don't think people have to necessarily pay to do that. I think you can sign up at $0 and message me. I don't have a Twitter anymore. I have a Facebook account, but I never check it.
Yeah.
So really it's YouTube and Patreon and roadguyrob.com. You can get to my email that way.
And watch the ads all the way through, right? Doesn't that help with revenue?
Yeah.
Or click on them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you click skip it significantly cuts
Yeah.
the amount of revenue. But the truth is, I'm not trying to lean into the revenue from
Yeah.
ads. They're there. It helps. It's people who, I think about 800 people at an average of, I don't know, $2.70 a person, but it can vary anywhere from $1 to 20, who once a month just have the money come out of their account because they want to help support me going out. And then I try to spend it the best I can going to places like Tennessee.
Yeah. And you get to tell stories about what you're passionate about.
Yeah, and that's fascinating. It goes back again to what Robert Walls said about television reporting back in the 80s. He's like, if you're not waking up every day going, I can't believe I get paid to do this as a job, you're in the wrong job. And so I'm in this weird spot. It goes back to when I was a kid, that tug of war between my pirate radio station, but I love freeways and want to design them. And I always figured I'd just end up being a radio traffic reporter if that was still a thing. You know, I think it's what I'm going to end up being, I guess, you know. And so, yeah, I can't believe I get paid to do this for a job. It's a wonderful honor, a privilege.
Yeah. I can't believe that I got paid to interview Road Guy Rob.
Yeah, see,
Pretty
win-win.
cool. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, well, thanks again.
You bet. And thank you for joining us on the Pulse Podcast. We'll see you next time.